Hello, Rim of the World Mountain Communities. It's Tuesday, June 28th, 2022, and you know what that means. It's time for us to do a deep dive into what the real estate market has done locally on our mountain for the past 7 days. Come on, we're going to take a look at some of the statistics. We're going to talk about whether or not there is or is not a housing bubble happening right here, right now on our mountain. And we're going to talk a little bit about whether or not today's market is a good thing. So come on, let's dive in, take a look at the numbers. And as always, I advise you decide. Let's find out. All right, then, let's get right to the information. I'm your host, Theresa Grant, local realtor. And as always, I'm here to bring you information so that you know exactly what's going on and you can make decisions based on fact instead of emotion, hyperbole, or whatever the local news stations are running as a way to grab your attention. So here we go. So let's go ahead and let's jump right into the data, and we're going to start looking at Lake Arrowhead, all communities as a whole. Now, why do we do that? First of all, we've got Arrowhead Woods, which is the area that has lake rights for private Lake Arrowhead, but there's also surrounding communities that are considered part of the Lake Arrowhead area. So when we talk about Arrowhead, all areas, we're talking about not just Arrowhead Woods, but also the surrounding areas such as Sky Forest, Crest Park, Crest Estates, Arrowhead Villas, Twin Peaks, Deer Lodge Park, Rim Forest, and all points in between. So we start there with a broad look at the data for that particular centralized area. Let's go ahead and let's pull up these numbers. This data is directly from the local MLS and the local Association of Realtors, that is Rim of the World Association of Realtors. Hello to all my fellow realtor friends. Let's take a look at what Lake Arrowhead all areas did during the past week. Right now, there are 220 active listings on the market. That is up because before it was 215. In the past 7 days, 11 properties have closed escrow with new owners. There are 35 properties currently in escrow, and there's 1 property coming soon. As a reminder, what coming soon means, that's a relatively new status in the MLS. What that means is that the property is listed for sale. It has begun its active marketing, but it's not available to be shown yet. So it's in the MLS, but we're not allowed to show it to anybody yet. Keep an eye on that. If you're looking for a property, make sure that your agent is also watching the coming soons so that as soon as something is available to be shown to you in person, you're able to get in the door and take a peek at it. Anyway, I want you to pay attention to these particular numbers for the all areas because there's a very telling story when we start looking at what's happening in Arrowhead Woods. So keep in mind right now, for all of the Arrowhead area, 220 active listings, 11 closings in the past 7 days, 35 properties in escrow, 1 coming soon. Let's narrow that down to Arrowhead Woods. Arrowhead Woods meaning the area that has lake rights for private Lake Arrowhead. Take a look at these numbers. 151 active listings in Arrowhead Woods. 9 recent closed escrow, so within the past 7 days. 26 properties in escrow and the 1 coming soon. So when you take a look at the numbers for the Arrowhead area at large versus what's happening at Arrowhead Woods, Arrowhead Woods is actually the bulk of the activity in the real estate market. Let me illustrate. I said that in the Arrowhead area, we've got 220 properties actively listed for sale in the MLS. Out of those 220, 151 of those are in Arrowhead Woods. We had 11 properties close escrow last week throughout the entire Arrowhead area. Out of those 11, 9 of them were closings in Arrowhead Woods. We have 35 properties currently in escrow for the Arrowhead area. Out of those 35, 26 of them are in Arrowhead Woods, and that 1 coming soon I told you about, it's in Arrowhead Woods. So it's kind of interesting to see how, even though we're talking about all these areas encompassing Arrowhead, so not just Arrowhead Woods, but, you know, Rim Forest, Sky Forest, Deer Lodge Park, Twin Peaks, all of those areas, All of those numbers, when you pull them together, the bulk of activity is happening in Arrowhead Woods. Let's take a quick peek at the Crestline market. Crestline is doing very, very well, nice and steady, 83 properties on the market right now. Before there were 88. We have 12 properties that have closed escrow in the past week. We have 39 properties that are in escrow, and no properties are coming soon to the Crestline market. And let me rephrase that, are in coming soon status. There's always properties coming on market, obviously, but in terms of coming soon status, if it's available for sale, you may see anything in Crestline right now. Let's go ahead and talk about Running Springs real quickly. Running Springs, we've got 72 properties on market. That's up just a tad from 65 prior. In the past week, 3 properties closed escrow. We've got 14 properties currently under contract in escrow and 1 property coming soon. And then moving on over to Green Valley Lake, which is still one of my most favorite darling little communities on the mountain, just because it's got kind of that really small town Norman Rockwell feel. Their statistics for Green Valley Lake real estate always reflect that. It's a highly desirable area that people just want, but there's not a lot of properties there overall, which means that the market share there is usually small. Right now, there's 19 properties available for sale in Green Valley Lake. In the past week, 1 property closed escrow. So that's about par for the course. I've noticed in the past 6 months or so, Green Valley Lake, we have maybe 1 or 2 closings a week. So it's a nice, steady influx of new owners coming into Green Valley Lake. It's not like we're selling hand over fist in there, but we are seeing a nice, healthy market turnover in Green Valley Lake. We have 5 properties currently in escrow, and there are no properties coming soon to the market, or in coming soon status, I should say, in Green Valley Lake. How does this all compare in terms of raw data numbers? Let's take a look. So right now, our active listing days on market peak to peak. So that includes everywhere as we're coming up the mountain, up from Waterman. We're talking about everything from Crestline to Lake Arrowhead to Running Springs to Green Valley Lake and all points in between. So these are the encompassing market data numbers. Our active listings, the days on market, are creeping up at 48. Prior, it was 47. So not a big difference, but we are seeing it creep up just a little bit more. A couple of weeks ago, we were at 37 days on market. Our active listings, the asking price per square foot right now is $376 a square foot. That's down a tiny bit from last week and the week before. Our closed listing days on market are up more. We are going upward, 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 but again, still a nice steady market. Our closed listings price per square foot is also up at $380 a square foot. What that means, generally speaking, is that our list to sales price ratio is over 100%. Now, what does that mean to actual home prices? First of all, you've got to understand that because our market area has nothing to do with tract housing whatsoever, we're very non-conforming. We could have a little 500 square foot cabin built in 1942 built next to something that somebody built in 2000 that's 1900 square feet. So very non-conforming overall, which makes the market somewhat unpredictable, especially for people that are running algorithms and they don't understand things like views, access, are we on a paved and maintained road, what are the nearby amenities, things like that. However, there are some properties in our market area that tend to be more of a draw and command a higher price point. For example, in the past 2 years, if you had a prow front, an A-frame, a modified prow, anything that had that 2-story wall of windows, you knew that you were going to have agents just beating down your door to show the house. You were going to have multiple offers because everybody wants that A-frame or that peak-to-peak experience. That's been the draw. Anything mid-century modern has been huge on the market, whereas the more traditional layouts have been kind of, they've gotten their pricing, but they haven't had the stampede to the door, so to speak. So if you've got a highly desirable property style, chances are you're going to get over your list price. But if you have one that's more mainstream, even if it's beautifully done and priced very well, you're probably not going to get that 100 to 105% over list ratio. You might get somewhere between 97% to 100 to 101%, depending on the marketing. But generally speaking, right now, overall, what we're seeing with our price per square foot asking at $376, but our price per square foot closing at $380, that just supports that we're just a skosh over 100% on our list price to sales price ratio. Very important to keep that in mind, especially as we talk about the next segment of the news that I'm bringing to you. What you're seeing right now is the average original price median versus the sales price median for our market area. And I took us all the way back to July of 2021. And you'll see that we are seeing some appreciation over time, but we're not seeing this tremendous appreciation that we saw back in like 2008, 2009, 2010, where people were just buying a house one day and 2 weeks later you saw it on the market for $400,000 more. Remember those times? That's not what we're seeing here on the mountain. And this is why I'm very optimistic about our market area values. Frankly, I think we're catching up. For the longest time, people didn't realize we were here and our home prices were very, very low. And then along came everything that we've been through in the past 2 years. People started discovering us like other areas like Joshua Tree and Idlewild and Mammoth. And all of a sudden, all eyes were on the rural resort marketplaces. And of course, that made us desirable and that pushed up home prices. However, looking at where we are with our original median price in June of 2022 for the entire mountain, the median was $514,000. Our sales price median was $528,000. I want you to think about the surrounding areas to us that are within like a 3-hour drive distance. So what can you touch in San Diego or the beach cities, Orange County, Los Angeles, Ventura, any of those areas, let alone the desert? What can you touch for $514,000? We are still a bargain compared to our neighboring markets. So why am I bringing this up? I want to explain to you 2 reasons why today's housing market is not a bubble. Yes, that is what I just said. Today's housing market isn't a bubble. Hold on just a second. I'm going to explain just a little bit more. Okay, so we've all been reading the headlines and hearing talk about a potential housing bubble or even a crash, but it's important to understand that the data and expert opinions tell an entirely different story. A recent study from Pulsenomics asked over 100 housing market experts and real estate economists if they believed that the housing market was going to be in a bubble. Interestingly enough, 60% of the experts said, no, we're not in a bubble. 32% said, yes, we are. 8% said, not quite sure yet. And that's fair. The recent growth in home prices is because of demographics and low inventory. The credit risks are incredibly low because underwriting and lending standards are sound, especially compared to what we went through in the 2008, 2009, 2010 time period. If you're concerned that a crash may be coming, here's a deep dive into these 2 key factors that may help ease your concerns. First of all, low housing inventory is causing home prices to rise. The supply of homes available for sale needed to sustain a normal real estate market, is approximately 6 months. Anything more than that is an overabundance and will cause prices to depreciate. Anything less than that is a shortage and will cause a continued price appreciation. As the graph that I'm sharing with you shows, there were too many homes for sale from 2007 to 2010. And we all know that many of those were short sales and foreclosure properties, and that caused prices to just tumble. Today, there's still a shortage of inventory, which is causing ongoing home price appreciation to be quite interesting. The inventory is nothing like the last time. Prices are rising because there's a healthy demand for home ownership, and at the same time, there's a limited supply of homes for sale. So one of the deputy chief economists of First American, her name is Ardita Kushi, I believe, Kushai. She explained, she said that the fundamentals driving house price growth in the US market remain intact. The demand for homes continues to exceed the supply of homes for sale, which is what's keeping house price growth high. The second thing to keep in mind is that mortgage lending standards today are nothing like the last time. During the housing bubble, again, 8, 9, 10, it was so much easier to get a mortgage than it is today. So the graph I'm sharing with you right now shows the mortgage volume issued to purchasers with a credit score less than 620 during the housing boom, and then the subsequent volume of the years after. As you can take a look here, we have in volume of loans in billions with a credit score under 620. In 2003, 4, 5, 6, and 7, which is your orange peak, we were looking at 300 to almost 400 billions in loan volume. Then we see what we had with the foreclosure crisis, 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12. Is when that happened. And then we started to tighten up with the lending standards. Now take a look at the volume of loans in billions with a credit score less than 620. It's small. It's like 100 billion as opposed to 400 billion. Basically, the graph shows one element of why mortgage standards are nothing like they were the last time. Purchasers who acquired a mortgage over the last decade are much more qualified than they were in the years that led up to the crash, 2008 plus, okay? And as Realtor.com noted, lenders are giving mortgages only to the most qualified borrowers. These borrowers are less likely to wind up in foreclosure. So here's the bottom line. A majority of experts agree that we are not in a housing bubble. That's because home price growth is backed up by a strong housing market, and lending standards are much tighter today. If you have any questions about this data or how it might affect you, let's connect to discuss why today's housing market is nothing like 2008. That's it for this week. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you next week for another edition of Real Talk with the market update for the Rim of the World Mountain Communities real estate market. Bye for now. That's a wrap for this podcast episode of Real Talk with Theresa Grant Realtor. You can find more content on the web at www.homesinlakearrowhead.com, on my YouTube channel, Theresa Grant Realtor, over at Instagram as Theresa Grant Realtor, and on Facebook as Lake Arrowheads Realtor. Be sure to tell a friend about this podcast because I love talking about real estate, and the more the merrier. Thanks for listening, and I can't wait until next time. Bye for now.